logo. A simple mark that lasts for years, decades, half a century. And why do we want these things to last for a long time? Well, it often costs millions and millions of dollars to change a logo. Entire structures are built around logos. But also, if a logo can stick around for a while, over the years, it can become a vessel that holds all the associations and the feelings that people have with the company it represents. And people can develop quite a bit of emotional attachment to logos. We call them identities for a reason. So how do we create something simple that can endure, can last for a long time? I work with Ivan Chermayeff, Tom Geismar, and Mackie Saturday. Our office in New York, and Ivan and Tom started the company in 1957, so this year is our 60th year. And over the decades, created some of identities that you might recognize. While the world is constantly changing, our approach to designing these identities has changed actually very little. And for us, the relationship with the client is a key thing. And the reason is that if you're going to establish a good design for a logo, sooner or later, we're going to have to push back on the client and say no. I'm going to look at two relationships today. They're separated by exactly 50 years. And in each, we had to establish trust with the client because we had to say no more than once. The first relationship takes us back a long time, over 60 years, in fact, to New York, 1960. A different world, no computers, no internet, no social media. And Chase National Bank and the Manhattan Company came together to create the biggest bank in the United States at the time, Chase Manhattan Bank. And they were building the first skyscraper in New York, downtown Manhattan. And the bank at the time was controlled by a triumvirate. John McCloy, the chairman, George Champion, president, second in command, and the third in command, David Rockefeller, an art collector on the board of the Museum of Modern Art, knew about design, and knew that this logo that they had to be changed. See, it has the map of the United States, it has the globe. In case you didn't get it, it also says worldwide banking. It has everything. So David Rockefeller invited Ivan Chermayeff and Tom Geismar, back then, nobody knew who they were, in their 20s, to take a look at the logo. And they realized very quickly that there is no representation of banking or finance. What is it? Is it bags of money? Is it a dollar sign? What is it? How do we represent a bank? So they thought that maybe with the exposure of the bank every day in the newspaper, maybe they can establish a simple abstract mark that over time can come to represent the bank. So they came back with some options, and this one, the simple blue octagon, came to be favored by David Rockefeller. They also showed some options, and they also showed other abstract marks that existed at the time. Because they said, you're not going to be the only ones. At the time, there was no abstract mark for a bank anywhere in the United States. So it was a little bit of an adjustment. So David Rockefeller liked it, but John McCloy, the chairman, said, what the hell is this? I don't understand it. What does it mean? It's not us. Couldn't we use a picture of the building? Couldn't we use a picture of the sculpture? They were building a sculpture, looks like this a little bit, from Alexander Calder for the plaza. Please, no. David Rockefeller said, do you really want something that looks like a spider for your logo? So on and on they went, and finally, David Rockefeller, under pressure, pressured him. Under pressure, John McCloy said, okay, David, if you want it, you can have it for the retail bank. But I don't want to see it on my letterhead. I don't want to see it on my business card. I don't want to see it in my office. I hate it. And the bank adopted the logo. It was a very big deal. And 6 months later, Ivan and Tom ran into John McCloy in the hallway. He was wearing a tie bar with the logo on it, and a tie with a pattern of the logo, and cufflinks of the logo, and even a baseball cap with the logo. Because it had become the representation of the bank, and he felt a sense of ownership. And this logo has been around for a long time, went through a change of ownership, a change of name, and even works in all the applications that nobody could have expected back then. And it is now 57 years old and going strong. And this taught us that you don't need to like a logo right away. But this is a tough thing to explain to a client today, especially since everybody wants to be liked instantaneously. Trademark design is the opposite of that. We take a long-term view. But that's a tough thing today. And if we say that a trademark gains meaning and power over time and that first impressions can be misleading, how do we know today what will still work years and years in the future? In other words, what's a good logo? Well, there are many misconceptions about logos. People think they have to tell a lot about us, or they have to be interesting or pretty or move us emotionally. In fact, a logo doesn't have to do any of that. A logo has to work so it can stick around. And over time, it builds recognition. So we kind of condensed these to three basic things that we're looking at. The first is that it be appropriate. And note I didn't say expressive, because it can't say very much. But it needs to feel right. This is a personality thing. So if it's in sport, maybe it's bold and dynamic. If it's in fashion, maybe it's elegant. It's a character type of thing. It's a feeling. The second characteristic criteria is that it would be distinctive. Different enough, memorable, so that it sticks in our mind. We see it once or twice, we can describe it to someone, or we can doodle it on a piece of paper. That's a good test. And the third is that it be simple. Something that's uncomplicated in form. So it can work in tiny size on a business card, on a large sign of a sign, maybe in pixel formats on the web. That's what we're looking for. And a good example for that is the yellow frame of National Geographic. If you landed here from Mars yesterday and you didn't know anything about National Geographic, you would say, what the hell is this? It's a yellow rectangle. It's nothing. But in fact, in combination with the name and through consistent use, it's the perfect vessel for all the associations and the feelings that people have with National Geographic. But this can only happen over time. And as convinced as we can be about the potential of a good logo design to work long-term for a client, we're faced over and over again with the desire to feel emotional connection immediately. This was true in 1960, and it's true today. And the tensions between what we were willing to do and what we were asked to do came to a boiling point with Conservation International. The largest conservation organization in the world. It's an amazing organization with dedicated people, with offices in over 40 countries. And Laura Bolling, who's a woman in charge of the logo, in charge of the branding, came to us with a logo problem. They had this thing. Now, to us, it looked like Club Med. But to them, it was amazing. They loved it. They've had it for 30 years. In fact, you see the monkey hanging in the tree? That was hand-painted by the president of the organization, who's a primatologist. He's an expert in monkeys. He hand-drew the monkey into the tree. So you can imagine the kind of attachment that there was for this logo. So why change it? Well, the mission changed from focusing on animals and the trees and the environment to focusing on issues that affect humans, like fresh water, fresh food, farmlands, even cities. And as you can see, there's no human in this landscape. So the first question was, can we add humanity into our logo? So we said, no, let us do something that's really appropriate for a leader in conservation. Let us give you something special. So the next question was, well, can we do something about humanity? And really, there's so many logos out there that have a human figure. So, no, please let us do something special for you. So we explored, and we always try many, many different things. And this is one page out of dozens and dozens of pages. And ultimately, internally in the office, we came to the realization that the idea of the blue planet with a green underline, emphasized, underlined in green, and then translated into a simple stroke, to us, it looked like unusual, something new. And yet, it's so simple. So we got excited about it. We thought maybe over time it can become the symbol for conservation, like the man symbol, or the woman symbol, or the peace symbol, something that simple. So it was so simple, we go to the lawyers, and the lawyers check how many other people around the world thought about exactly the same thing that we thought about. And we get these reports. And when you think about it, there are many similar logos out there. Here are two, right? Univision and Microsoft, very similar. Even in the same industry, and less than a decade apart, Gucci and Chanel, very similar. And we all know all these guys, right? They're all typed in a square. And maybe the most egregious example is the red star. It's exactly the same mark, the same color, and it's used for all these guys, but it's all in the same, in different industries, so it's okay. Even this guy has a red star. So back to our story. The lawyers actually surprisingly came back and said, go ahead and use it. Nobody's using something like this. So we got excited. We developed a presentation with a name, designed with a logo. We showed how it looks on a business card, and it can inspire a system to identify all the offices around the world. We showed it on their website. At the time, it was also on every Starbucks cup. They're official partner of Starbucks. And on a T-shirt, looks beautiful. And we thought, oh, we made a pretty good case. But they didn't think that. We had a pretty picture, and you're telling us to go with a circle and a line. What does it mean? It's not us. So we tried again, and we showed how the logo can be used as a device to express the interconnection between people and the resources, people and nature. We thought that was pretty nice, but they didn't. There was no way. And these convincing went on for about 6 months. And 6 months into it, I got a message on my answering machine from Laura Balling. And she's a very cool lady, and she allowed us to play it in public. And I'm about to play it for you. Actually, the message went on for 4 minutes. We cut it to 1.5 minutes. But it is amazing how difficult it is to come to terms with something very simple. And this is what this message is expressing to you guys. And we also had a little fun with it in motion graphics. So here goes.
March 16th, 2010 at 9:03 a.m. Sagi, good morning. It's Laura. Unfortunately, Peter wants to pursue some change to give the logo movement. I'm going to try and speak to him. He's traveling today. Woke up this morning with a thought. Is there a way in the green line to just slightly change sort of the layers and create a little bit of layers of color so it almost looks like it would be that there would be not lines, but just a bit of change in dimension of color. I'm not explaining it well. but I'm trying to do something that is so minor. So what would be the most minor thing we could do? I don't like gradations usually, and so I'm not really talking about that. But I wonder if there's a way to do that, or if there's some way to indicate a line in that, or a bit of an arrow, ever so subtle. I don't know. I really don't. I'd leave it to your genius to do that. Okay, bye.
So at that point, we were going to quit. And, but we thought, we can't give up. And as a last-ditch effort, we thought, why don't we try to pay homage, to do a homage to the monkey in the tree? And maybe try to express to them that the new logo is actually an expansion, not a reduction in the scope. Less is more. So we teamed up with a motion graphics studio called Thornburg and Forrester in New York, and we created a motion graphics piece that goes from the old logo to the new logo. Here it goes. And then they were convinced. It was amazing. I don't know if it was because they were just tired of us and they were done. But because we were able to infuse the mark with meaning and their history, they were able to relate. And since then, the mark is only 7 years old. It has really come to represent the totality of their mission and has been around now. It's on their website. At first, it was this. Now, we found out that they just use the symbol. And that's the power of a simple, distinctive mark, is that over time, it can really take on the meaning of an entire organization. And it works for them in all the different situations, and they're really happy with it. Neither the logo for Chase nor the logo for Conservation International, not in the 60s, not now, could have happened without a close relationship between the designer and the client, a relationship of trust. Because the client has to believe us when we tell them that they don't need to fall in love with the logo right away, that this will happen over time. In essence, we think of a logo as a flag. It doesn't say very much about the country it represents. In fact, it says nothing. But it's strong, and it's bold, and it's distinctive. And over the years, it has become a vessel that holds all the associations and the feelings that we have with that country. And the reason that flags are the best identifiers is that they've been around for a long, long time. Thank you.